We live in a time where the flow of information is constant, with competing voices in crowded spaces, where old school thoughts meet new school ideas.
We are constantly having to recreate ourselves. To understand these identities, we need to decipher the culture. This is unconventional. This is Lounge Academics.
And Yann is here. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good evening to you.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Yeah, you good? You good? So Yann's in the building. I'm sure you've heard my preamble already about how this works. So
Yes.
Yann, you're gonna come on. The first 5 minutes is just for you to just set the tone, let people know who you are. I feel like I'm swaying at the moment, Yann. It's all moving.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the right angle. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's cool.
Excellent.
So we're going to have Yann talk for a few minutes about his work, and the focus is really around his business journey. So join us in welcoming Yann. And Yann, the stage is yours, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Yann Tanoe. I'm a multidisciplinary entrepreneur. Okay, I'm a social entrepreneur. Everything that I do has a social dimension to it. This year, I'm celebrating 10 years of career in that field. And, throughout that 10 years, the most important thing that I've learned has been to redefine my version of what success was. I started this as a young man. This has seen me change and transition into being a husband and a dad. And I've seen a lot of different things. And so that enabled me to reframe the way that I see success. And so the different industries that I've been impacting in have been, creative industries. So namely catering, clothing. I have a clothing label. I have a publishing house, which is what I'm going to kind of be talking about tonight. I've got an educational project in Western Africa that deals with mental wellness and mental health in children. And I also impact in agribusiness. And so I've got experience over a wide range of different industries. And so what I do is that I love people. As a person, I love people, and everything that I do is to build people up. And so, with my publishing house, I created a multicultural platform that focuses on celebrating the narrative from the multicultural community. My latest project is the Open Door Men's Magazine. As a man, I'm very aware of the different challenges that we have. And so I wanted to create not only a publication, but a community where different men could come together and learn from each other how to navigate this new definition of masculinity that we see, and also how to relate to each other. And so the beautiful thing about this project is that, we started it as a multicultural platform, but in the next year, it's actually branching off and spinning off into the Black community and focusing on alternative Black narratives. And so it's very exciting for me. Setting up my publishing house was as a result of me, as a young writer, sending manuscripts left, right, and center and getting negative responses. And so instead of sitting here and feeling sorry for myself, I decided, you know what, I'm a go-getter. Let me just create my own table. Let me create my own platform. And this is another thing that I advocate for. I promote the fact that we can go forward and create our own platforms and not wait for anything to be given to us. And so who are the type of people that I want to meet? Well, the people that are hungry for the world, the people that are conscious, that are open-minded, and that want to get their narratives out there in the world. Because I think that, I celebrate people's perspectives, and I think there's nothing more powerful than the perspective from which you come from. And, to be able to put that in print, or, to turn it into a podcast or anything like that is a very powerful way. So in a nutshell, I've tried to keep it brief, but this is kind of what I'm about. Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Yann. No, thank you for that. You definitely have spoken to the serial disciplinarian, serial entrepreneur. You definitely spoke to all of that, definitely, and what you've touched on. And obviously, as I know, which we'll find when we get into this conversation, we tend to start talking and it expands and it goes into other areas very
I like
quickly.
that.
And I can see that you come as a person that carries a lot of skills, wealth, and knowledge, okay? So I think it's important for me to stress now. Obviously, Yann has mentioned a lot in terms of his business journey, in terms of the different educational projects and different initiatives that he has going at the moment. If you're really interested in some of the other things that Yann has mentioned, I strongly suggest that you speak, you connect with him, reach out to him. He is on other platforms as well as Instagram right now. He's on LinkedIn, he's on Twitter, he's various other platforms. So I encourage you to reach out and connect with him. He's a great guy, very approachable, right? So please do make sure that you do that, particularly if he's mentioned other things that is of interest to you. But I felt by means of focusing and having a focus, I think it would be easier to look at one dimension this evening. So the publishing house and looking at that, I thought would be the focus. So looking at your publications around Open Door magazine and all that stuff that you're doing, it would be really great to unpick that. So let's just rewind back for a moment. Let's just go back. There was something that you said that really intrigued me, right? Which I think could be of interest. And with our community, often are very active, so they'll pose their questions as we go along. So we're more than happy. Yann and I are open for you to pose your questions wherever you're at with whatever we say, yeah? And we'll deal with them as we go along. So, and I'm very interested to hear, you said you initiated or started this by creating your own table because the table you were approaching initially weren't having it. Tell us a little bit about, because I know you're talking about writing scripts. So was it a particular area of writing that you're interested in? And if you could just take us back to that journey of rejection, so to speak, so we can just get that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, at that time, and I've been writing ever since, I can remember, since the age of 12, And so, and that comes from my history as somebody that's lived across the world, that comes from different parts of the world. And these things are things that have really fueled my imagination from very young. So I started writing about my experience in the world. I saw myself, I wrote poetry. I started writing prose, short stories. And I thought at the age of 19, you know what, actually, I need to get this out. This is good stuff. And a lot of people around me were like, hey, this is good, get it out. And so I used to package everything the most beautiful way, because it was in the time when you had to send like the actual manuscript,
yeah.
The good old days. Yeah. Send everything, covering letter, the works, and everything that was related to what the topics that I was writing about. And I sent everything, but every time it was a no. And I used to think, the first time I was like, okay, well, let me go away and let me improve, because, you have to learn from criticism and rejection. Yeah. But it kept on happening. And I just thought, this is not right. And it wasn't because I was, what do you call it? I wasn't full of myself, but the stuff that I wrote spoke to people, because I did lots of, small events and, shared parts of my work for people to analyze, like academics even, around me. And
so you already had an intimate audience. You knew there was a longing for what you were putting out there. Yeah.
And there was definitely a place for that kind of voice, but it just wasn't, that wasn't it. And so that's what led me, in 2015, when I wrote my first book, Childhood is Eternal. And I looked at it and I thought, you know what, I need to get this published. So I started off self-publishing, and I was very, very proud. That was, Childhood is Eternal is a collection of my travels around the world and the children that I met in very difficult circumstances.
Oh, wow.
It's a very raw book, very raw words. And so I used that, published that. And then that's where it just came from there. I just thought, one book, great. Moved on to the second, and then it just spiraled from there.
So Yann, if we were to go back and we were to, did you ever get concrete feedback as to why initially you were being rejected, why you were getting those rejections at all?
Well, the main one was that they were just not interested in what I was writing. There was that, that it was just not. There was that, for some of the publishing houses, it was that, it wasn't, And then the other side of it was that you needed an agent. They wanted people that were already established. They had agents. They had the whole team and things like that. And which I understand, being in the industry myself, I understand, but
Yeah.
it's quite problematic. It's problematic because there's people, independent people that are doing great stuff that need recognition, So there's always publishing, the publishing industry has always had these lofty kind of, criteria and things like that that excluded a lot of other people, in my opinion.
Okay. And I mean, I'm gonna go out there to say, would obviously, and as part of that exclusion, I would imagine people of color, because I've often heard kind of ethnic written work or ethnic narratives often don't usually work for the mainstream. Yeah.
That's it. Because
So yeah.
at the time, you have to take that into account. I'm talking about 2010, around that time. I mean, we still know that, ethnic minorities are underrepresented in the publishing industry, in books that are published. I mean, take it back then, it was even worse. And so when I came around with a narrative that was, an ethnic narrative, that was, talk about migration, because these are things that I was talking about, because this is my experience. Talk about migration, belonging, identity. It just wasn't the thing, So it wasn't necessarily that my stuff wasn't good. It was that, that wasn't the thing. It wasn't a narrative that they wanted to push, So there's a lot of things that I came to understand as I got older into this this industry. That, especially with the big publishers, the commercial publishers, there's fashions, there's trends. Well,
Yeah.
And if your narrative is not trendy or fashionable,
it doesn't fit. It won't get looked at. And it's interesting because Paper Pages, he's commenting at the moment, who's talking about, unless it's about slavery or violence, or it kind of sensationalizes certain narratives of black people that's existing at the moment. And Paper Pages, I mean, she's in publishing as well. So I'm sure a lot of what you're saying will resonate with her, would really connect with a number of the people that are on this chat or part of this conversation as well. But just to add, in terms of, now you have now published your book, you've gone and it's taken it to another level, right? What was the difference? So you're going to publishing houses, they've rejected you, and now you have effectively gone and you've created your own table, right, to publish your works. So what was the difference? What was the difference for you from that experience?
Well, the difference was, like I said, it was after my first book. When I self-published my first book and I looked at it, and I thought, what, there's a bigger mission there. There's a bigger mission that I need to, taking all the negatives that I've lived, And I thought, there's so many people out there like me that have got fantastic stories, fantastic perspectives. So why not create a table and invite everybody in? And that's literally what I did. So after my second book, Good Morning Atlantic, was published, I started.
Good Morning Atlantic.
Yes, Good Morning Atlantic.
Yeah, okay.
That was my, chronicle of migration, and that's when I started inviting people. So I had my first author that came under me, second, third, and then that's how we started growing from then. And I can't tell you how exciting that was.
When you say you invite, Yann, are you talking about what, to co-author with you, or bringing up other authors under your publishing house? What do you mean?
That's what I mean. Sorry, I meant I'm talking very poetically on that invite.
That's all right. It's cool. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
So I had other authors joining me on my platform. And that has been the most exciting thing. I mean, publishing my first author, I mean, wow, there's no feeling like it, because the way that I see it is that a book is eternal. It's a legacy. It's not just for today. A book lives on forever. So to be able to get to that point where you actually have this and you've given somebody that opportunity, I say, because it's not, the opportunities are not there, So the moment that you're able to, turn your negative into a positive and give somebody else that opportunity, it's out of this world. It really is.
Definitely. So I totally can appreciate that there is real synergy between, creating your own table, creating your own works, and then being able to invite others to be able to do the same. You're giving them that space that you effectively didn't have.
Exactly.
You've created that and you're now recognizing that for other people. I guess my question then would be, because you often hear stories about people's struggle even in self-publishing, because a lot of it is often linked to marketing, big budgets, the agents, all the other things that you kind of was alluding to before. you know, when you're going to the bigger mainstream publishing houses and whatnot. What are some of the challenges then for, I totally get the feeling of enlightenment and being empowered to go. So I don't want to dampen that, but I guess there's also the reality that you're now effectively on your own and you're building this and marketing, and there's all these other elements that go with it. So what is the kind of struggles or challenges with self-publishing?
I mean, so are you talking about me personally self-publishing or just like, you know, on my platform?
Yourself, your platform, because I would imagine, you know, for yourself, you've effectively self-published and now you've made a way to help others do the same.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's
So
it.
I guess from that journey, what has been the struggle from that point to self-publishing yourself to then helping others to do the same, I guess?
Well, that's
Yeah.
it. I mean, you know, for me, you know, it's still there's still a lot of it's still very tricky because obviously, you
Yeah.
know, especially when you go to publishing house, you've got a specific business model, you know, you become responsible. I mean, we've got different ways of handling our publishing. There's different schemes that we have where, you know, either people can come with us and just self-publish. We take them, we support them through the journey, and then they walk away with a book. And then we've got the other aspect where we support them and then we market the book. And then, so there's three different ways for people to come with us to do that. And so the experiences are very different
Okay.
from our authors. There's some people that we've taken on. I mean, we're a growing platform. We're
Yeah.
still a small platform, but we're a
Sure.
growing platform, you know, but I've always taken the opportunities from every other thing that I was doing because, like I said, I'm spread out many different platforms, and
Yeah.
after I've been able to grow my publishing house using the other platforms that I have and promoting the authors that stayed with me or that, you know, gave me their work to publish, so that's been very helpful for them. But at the same time, you know, it's still a very tricky thing. You know, being an independent publisher is not an
Yeah.
easy fit. It's not. You know,
Yeah.
yes, you're making people's dreams come true. You know, you know, yes, you know, of publishing, and yes, because you know, I don't discriminate. I don't discriminate what I publish. It has to be great. It has to be good. It has to be a good perspective. You know, of course. But I don't discriminate necessarily on the type of topics, you know.
Okay.
So I love giving people the opportunity to do that, you know. But it's not easy. It's not always easy, you know.
Totally.
Find the right
Okay.
communities to market to, and things like that.
Exactly. And I think this may speak to what Paper Pages, I don't know if you've seen the question that she's just posed. She's asked us to please talk about any experiences that you may have had with getting reviews by big publications or award entries. So I guess she's speaking about that whole recognition of works from a bigger picture. Have you gone down that road at all? Have you had any experiences of that? Because I think that's something she'd be interested to hear a bit about, if that's relevant.
So in what way? So with the publishing house?
Yeah, because I'm judging, because it says, please talk about any experiences you've had with getting reviews by big publications or award entries. So maybe this might relate to individual pieces of work. Because I guess she's talking about the red tape and the bureaucracy that's
Yes,
involved.
yes.
How have you navigated all of that? I guess is what. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paper Pages, if I've got that wrong, okay? But that's my understanding from what I'm reading.
I think for me, with the only award that we entered, yes, we only entered like a couple of our. I think that's what she's talking
Yeah.
about. Entering your books and your publication into bigger you know, awards and competitions.
Yeah,
And
possibly, yeah.
we've done that a few times, but I don't recall getting any feedback as such. I don't recall getting any feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not something I can talk about.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But I think what she's speaking to, and she's talking about now, it was when you spoke about the challenges. I guess what she's speaking to is this wider kind of challenge of getting that wider recognition. Because what I found, I mean, what's quite interesting when I speak to because I'm not an author or a writer, right? I'm not podcasts on my things. People, people have asked me to be interviewed as part of excerpts to put into a manuscript or into a book and stuff. So that's as far as it's gone in terms of my involvement And I know that I'll be collaborating with you as well. I just wanted to add that as well. As part of your up and coming projects, looking at, Black narratives, particularly around masculinity. But what I've heard when I spoke to my immediate colleagues, I said to them that, I know friends that have developed their own publishing houses or colleagues that are doing this work. And automatically it was kind of frowned upon. It was like, oh, self-publishing, that's not cool. And this is regardless of ethnicity, race, or background. It was very negative, and I couldn't understand why. Maybe because I'm not in that world, I don't get it. But why would it be viewed negatively to be self-publishing? Why is that frowned upon?
Because the publishing industry is very elitist. It's hugely elitist. So how dare an independent person get up and create a publishing house, because it should only go through the big five, the big 10, and that's it. And there's that whole quality aspect of quality as well. It's a very elitist thing. I mean, I attend salons, regularly. Yeah. And, bring in my books along and things like that. And, all people do is just scrutinize. That's what the salon is about. That's what I've come to understand, When you're with fellow publishers, you're just kind of checking, you're just checking each other's work, and that's the kind of industry that it is. It's all very much what it looks like, It's just about what you're presenting. It's very superficial to a lot of extent, It's because your books are an image of you. Your books that an image of you and a reflection of you, So I always think the best books that we have along.
Because Paper Pages is talking about, it's like nepotism. It's not like I think it is nepotism. I think we do have, just to echo what you're saying about elitism, I think you find that in every industry, but I think there are some
but
where it's very much.
Publishing is just, because if you look at the history of publishing, it's the dinosaur of an industry. That it is. That was the white owned. It was. It was this product like it is. So it's when people like me, small fry, human, come along. It's looked upon in some way. So I completely understand the stigma that goes with that. But that's something that I don't play into. I don't.
But given this experience then, right? Given that, number one, ethnic minorities, we're a minority in a strange land anyway, first and foremost. Second of all, that becomes further compounded when we look at that in terms of the publishing industry. We have no love. We're underrepresented in the industry. So how, because I know there is yourself, there's Paper Pages, there's various other people also who are in the industry that are self-publishing. Is there, I guess, what am I saying? Is there scope for us to work together here? To strengthen, unify, to strengthen things, to strengthen representation, to strengthen our position. Is there scope for that at all?
Absolutely. My perspective. I'm a collaborator. I'm a cross-pollinator. That's what I refer to myself as. Every time I see another business that's doing something similar, I always approach. That's just I don't see people as competition necessarily. I don't. And a lot of people ask me about this in business. They're just like, but this is crazy. Yes, you're my competition. You're my competitor, and that's fine. But I want to go towards you, to learn from you, to see how we can collaborate. Because especially if we're in the same struggle and the same industry like that, then yes, we need to be able to share and talk. So I've linked, I've gone towards other publishers, publishers, black publishers, or things like that. And we've had conversations, and so in talks with different partnerships and things like that. That's something that I definitely believe in. Absolutely.
What's been the experience of that in terms of collaboration? Has it been, I know you said you referred to being in talks, right?
Yeah.
So, have you found those talks fruitful? Has they been significantly challenging? Because I do feel, particularly when I work, and this isn't necessarily publishing specific, in different industries, I've noticed when we have that conversation, sometimes it can be challenging because of that view that, oh, you're my competition. and then they throw holy water at you and garlic, you know. That's something I've often kind of seen. And in my experience, even with my platform and with this has been co-founded, you know, I'm a part of the community, although I'm kind of the visual face. There are a number of people that are behind this. But yet the idea of collaboration can be quite scary, you know.
But like I said,
Yeah.
it is scary to a lot of people, but to me, it's not something that's scary. It's something that's natural. It's something that's paramount. Okay, because like I said, in all my different spheres of influence, I only got to where I have to a lot of degree because of that attitude, where I just thought, you know what, oh, let's talk, let's do this, let's talk that, let's do that. You know, that's what I'm about, you know, and that's why my publishing house is structured the way that it is. I mean, as you've seen, you know, I've approached you to take part in the project of Open Door. You know, this is it.
Very collaborative.
I'm always like, you know, a positive, what could be a fruitful collaborations. So, you know, when I talk about, you know, people, you know talking with certain, you know, small publishing, independent publishers as well, that's what I mean. It wasn't easy. I'm not saying it was. You know, when I approach people, you know, a lot of the time it's like, oh, you know, because another aspect that I get criticized on, you know, is the fact that it's a multicultural publishing house. You know, and a lot of people, you know, a lot of people, especially in our community, look at that and like, oh, it's multicultural, you know, so it's not Black. But actually, it's, you know, it is, you know, it's predominantly, I appreciate everybody, but, you know, I like to give, you know, people from our community the what do you call it, the priority. And that's
definitely.
You know, like I said, I'm a cross-pollinator. I'm a, you know, somebody that's global, and so this is kind of that ethos that I have. Yeah.
But why do we? I mean, I got this question. Why do we have to? And I most probably will come under fire for this, but I don't care. My platform will know me. I don't really care about people's opinions about me. But why is it? Why do we have to have everything Black this, Black that, the Black that, the Black collective, the Black? Why I struggle to wonder why there's such an emphasis on ethnicity, on race, to highlight and to mobilize people. I don't get it. Sorry.
I understand, you know, I completely understand, because obviously, like I said, this is criticism that I receive, you know, so I had to dig deep and try to understand. And so I get it, because what I found, you know, even, you know, with Black men, approaching Black men to write for Open Door, the multicultural edition, I found that a lot of people in our community are very precious about their narratives, okay? There's a certain, what's the word? Yeah, people, they're very precious. They won't just share it with anyone or within. They're very careful about where they share the narrative. And, you know, after so many, you know, years, decades of being pushed aside, it's only natural, you know, from what I've come to understand, that we want our own. You know, we want something that's ours, you know, and I completely understand that. But somebody like me, that's issued from, you know, different, you know, places, different bloodlines, different this, different that. I'm all about, you know, cross-pollination again, because I believe that, you know, different communities need each other to be able to move forward, you know. And in terms of, you know, literature, I mean, you know, the wealth of literature comes from that different perspective. It comes from the varied narratives that we can have in a society. I mean, I love the aspect of, you know, British society as we talk about it today.
Sure.
So diverse, so colorful, so beautiful. And I want to hear all the perspectives, all the narratives, because that's how we understand each other, and that's how we move forward. Because like I said, whether we want to or not, we need each other to be able to move forward. We do. Yeah. We have to work together in some way. And that's kind of what my ethos is, and that's what I bring together in that publishing house.
Yeah. And I think just to, because Paper Pages has just made a comment around, in terms of books, it's about representation. I totally agree. I just want to emphasize that, of course, having us in all our shades of melanin, in all the different hues, we need to have representation. And that goes without saying. But I found, I guess what I'm talking about is when we, like, for example, maybe because it's linked to the Black Pound Day stuff and what's happened with George Floyd, but this has always been the case anyway, to be fair. I think there's always been this emphasis on, you know, we are down for black hairstylists, we represent black this. There's always the color put on everything. And what I found just from my years of looking at this, actually it further ostracizes you and isolates you. And what I mean by that, just before people start throwing things at their screen or at their phone, right? What I mean by that is that I think, yes, it's good to mobilize other people that look like us, right? But I think it goes without saying, often you create things within your image. If you do, naturally, people will be attracted. Like, there are two black men now talking, right? I'd assume if there were other black men on the line or whatever, they would be interested in maybe the conversation, maybe to hear what we've got to say, you know? But I guess when we start talking explicitly around race and color, I feel to other people it says this is a black thing. This isn't for us. It excludes other people, which then pushes you further into a corner, you know. As like what we've seen with the talk around Black Lives Matter, for example. You know, I don't want to get political on this, but just this is what I've noticed. So I guess that's what I'm talking about in relation to that. But maybe this is a good opportunity to hear a bit more, Yann, about. Yeah, go ahead.
I think, you know, when it comes to this, you know, I mean, I partly grew up, like I said, you know, I've lived, you know, on over 3-4 continents before the age of 12, you know, and then I arrived here and things like that. And, you know, something that was very striking to me was, you know, going through the British school system here. I've always been quite literary, you know, because I'm French. French is my first language. You know, I speak Spanish, whatever else. And I'm very language orientated. Yeah. And so, you know, when I came here, you know, and I was looking for the literature, you know, I loved what I was seeing. You know, the Charles Dickens, you know, and you know, it was great. But in the GCSE anthology, for instance, you know, in high school, there was only a section that was dedicated to poems from other cultures and traditions. And that was on its own, separate from the main body of literature that we were studying. Now, that part of the anthology became my favorite. Okay, I loved it. And that's when I encountered John Aggard, Half Caste. And John Aggard is one of my... He's the reason why all this is what it is, because I just and I just love. I was like, this is so amazing that I can sit in this all-white classroom and actually see this, and I just fell in love with it. And then, you know, presents from my aunt in Pakistan, like I can reel off the poems, you know. And this is what it was. So when I looked at that, I thought, you know what, the power of having something that's for you is very powerful. Because as the only black child in that classroom, the sunshine came from these pages, you know. So I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, that, you know, it alienates and things like that. But on the other side, it just really, really, you know, it gives you that sense of identity and belonging. Because that's what I felt, you know, being a child in these classrooms. You know? So for me today, to be able to create something similar like that, where, you know, somebody's going to read one of my authors, you know, one of these kids, you know, to me, that's beautiful. You know, I think it's amazing. So there's two ways to look at it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm saying is, though, would we need to, it goes without saying that John Aggard would have produced that beautiful work without having to say it's black. Do you get what I mean? People, do you get where I'm coming from? It could exist in the world without us. You know, but I get, but then we're talking about different industries. I get we're talking about publishing and representation without that and finding the balance. But I guess what I'm talking about maybe is the way that we choose to brand our business or what we do. Perhaps I'm speaking to that narrative, which is slightly different to people's personal narratives of speaking and connection and identity. So that's why I think this would be a really beautiful opportunity, or a great opportunity to find out more. Because I'm very interested in your latest venture around looking at black masculinity, reclaiming and looking at alternatives. So tell us a bit more about this project, because I'm a part of it as well. But I just want you
Yes.
to say, but yeah, yeah,
That's a very interesting project because, the first, it was born from the original Open Door. Open Door magazine was created because I wanted, like I said, the conscious men of this world to come together, to find out things that they have in common, and to actually build masculinity regardless of, skin, ethnicity,
yeah,
sexuality. Open Door magazine has got everybody in it, every kind of man you can think of, okay? The
yeah,
current one. And so, I started wanting to create that platform for the black community around the time of George Floyd. And when I created that platform, something went wrong, and I was microaggressed on it for sharing
okay,
my narrative as somebody who's of mixed origins, and
yeah,
that's in the white community and things like that. And that really, really broke my heart, and so I stopped the project.
okay,
And then, interestingly, a few weeks later, I met another guy that was just amazing, and we connected, and we had the same view. And our view was to take black masculinity and to take the black out of it. Okay? And this is,
okay,
this is something that's crazy. But take black out of it and actually feature men, yes, that have the skin, but feature men. And
yeah,
see what these men are like without necessarily everything that the black connotation, or the black identity. To just see what these men are like and who they are. And so that's what this kind of project is about. When I talk about alternative narratives, it's
yeah,
also something that will explore the different, because when we talk about black men, there's a specific narrative that is always pushed upon us, whether it's by the main media or whatever you want. There's, the black experience, the black man's experience is one.
So is this the reason why you chose to take the black out, because of this, because of the weight of what men carry when you hear black man? Is that one of the reasons as to why you extracted that out intentionally
Yeah, it was
from
that, because
yeah.
I just want us to see ourselves as men before anything else.
Mm.
Because being a man is one thing, being a black man is another thing. And so I wanted us to actually take that off for a minute and actually see who we are underneath, and look at the alternative narrative that creates. And that's what this publication is about, bringing that alternative view and that different definition of what a black man is. And that to me is a very powerful thing, because this is something that I've tried in my own life, to just kind of sit down and think, what,
Yeah.
who am I? If I'm not, thinking about black, if I'm not thinking about, everything that is pushed upon me, like the stereotypes, the discrimination, the struggle, the fight, who am I as a man? And that's what brought this about. And I felt that so many other black men would benefit from actually doing that, and just kind of sitting back and just slumping a little bit and just letting themselves exhale what's in here.
It's really interesting you say that, because I mean, by the work that I do, everyone that listens or follows my work will know I'm very interested around masculinity and ideas about that, and its many shapes and forms, depending on where it exists, and this idea of what it means to be a man, depending on where you are, what you do, or what circle you're in. But it's really interesting. I'm very passionate about your project and around the theme generally. But I wondered, this weight that us as black men carry, we, for those that are listening, you may find it interesting to check out on our YouTube channel. Really cool interview that I did with a young man, funny enough, called Yann as well, actually. Yannick, actually, is his full name. But Yannick obviously talks about it from a psychological point of view, about the burden of our race. But I wondered, some of the weight that men carry as black men, what are some of those things? What are those narratives that you feel as black men that we're carrying at the moment, that burdens us?
It's to me, it's literally like, just the weight of the struggle. Just when I talk about the struggle,
Okay.
I talk about discrimination. The fact, the stereotypes, the stereotypes alone,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
enough to just, when you're sitting there walking down the street and you're just looking around,
Yeah.
you walk somewhere and you're just kind of expecting people to turn around and look, that kind of thing, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And especially with everything that's happened at the moment, we're looked upon a certain way. So more people are on the defensive. More people are, looking behind their shoulders. What are people going to say? What's this? And that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. On the mental health perspective,
Mm.
we need to kind of, sit down. We need to take a moment and actually analyze what's going on inside our hearts, and our mind.
Yeah.
I think that's what's needed at this point. We've gone through a lot. We're going through a lot, and I just don't think that we've had a time where we've actually sat back and just been like, "Who am I as a man? Who am I?"
I think. Yeah, I think what you're saying, and I'm coming in because I think what you're saying is very powerful, and I just want to echo it because this notion of really connecting emotionally, yeah, as well as physically and mentally, because I think as men often emphasis is put on the logic and on the mind, which brings its own stresses in itself. But I like this idea of let's take a pause for a moment and think about how we feel about this stuff. What is happening for us? And I just want to amplify that. I think that's very powerful. That's something I feel as a narrative is a more recent conversation that we're having. I think it's been long overdue, but it's happening. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, and that's it. Because I had to go through that process myself, like I said. When everything happened with George Floyd and that, there was a lot of different things. It was very busy in my life. I was microaggressed, like from the community and from the other community, and it was very difficult. And I had to sit back and be like, you know what? Let me remove this. Let me remove the identity that I've always known. Let me remove that, and let me see what's going on here. Who am I? How am I feeling? How am I doing? What's my real narrative? If I take away all these things, all that noise, what is my actual narrative? We talk about Black excellence. Am I excellent? Do I need to be excellent? All these questions, because we're realizing we burden ourselves so much. There's so much stuff that's there to burden us. And it doesn't help. It just doesn't help us thrive in the way that we should. It doesn't. And people disagree with me all the time. That's fine. But this, I'm sticking to this.
Yeah, of course.
I've done the journey. I've done the work for this. And when I'm sitting in front of you today, I talk from that place where I came from. That was very painful.
Yeah.
To actually have realized that actually that's something that we need to do. Being Black is our identity. We can't. That's what it is. That's what it is. But we need to be able to unpick it. We need to have the courage to unpick that and see what is working for us and what is actually causing more strain, more mental illness. Because it's an identity that we have, it doesn't mean that the identity is always working with us, or helping us to thrive.
But what I love. But what I want to emphasize and what I love about this and about the conversation as well is how there is emphasis on your own lived experience. I love the idea that this has been born not only to some extent, this has been a strategy that you've employed of coping, looking for yourself. And in a way, through the process of the publication, through the process of this up and coming project, you're enabling others to do the same.
That's it.
To come in and connect and to heal. And hence, I guess this links a lot to what you were saying earlier about your agenda of having a business that has social values, that is linked to social outcomes. And I think that speaks very beautifully to that.
I said everything that I do has to benefit people. Because what my personal brand is called EER. Empowerment, emancipation, rehabilitation. Yeah. So, that's the 3 words that kind of underpin everything that I do. With my clothing range, it's the fact that we're upcycled, with that we're lessening the impact on, of pollution in the world. With my agribusiness, it's the fact that we're organic. And with this, It's the fact that we're rehabilitating people by
Sure.
taking their perspective and narratives and giving them that platform
Sure.
to actually unpick themselves and then
Sure.
share that with others. You
Sure.
know, and that to me is where the power is, especially when we talk about being a man and when we talk
Yep.
about manhood today. We need to unpick, you know, in the wider community, the wider men's community, you know, the white, you know, in the white community, whatever, masculinity has been, you know, unpicked, you know.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody, I was doing like an interview with somebody recently that, you know, another white man that has platforms for white men. And, you know, as he was talking, I was like, yeah, you guys have made actually a lot of strides. So you made a lot of progress because you smashed that masculinity that you had and you started rebuilding it. But with us, it's different. It's different. We're just on the cusp of that journey. You know, there's enough awareness at the moment, but we're on that journey now where we need to actually sit there and have the courage to say, okay, black manhood, smash.
Yeah.
What
But
is
to
it?
some extent, I think that's very much been someone else's narrative that we have been riding along with. You know, we've been
Absolutely.
passengers in another vehicle of masculinity and ideas, you know, totally. And I hear you, and I think you're right. We are starting to look at that, and I'm seeing a number of platforms in their sphere of influence that are attempting to tackle this very issue and to smash that narrative and to unpick it and to explore it. So how, Yann, if there are men right now that are listening to us having this conversation, or there are women who are on the platform right now listening to us that may think, I've got a brother, I've got an uncle, I've got a cousin, I've got somebody who I feel can contribute to this publication, to this conversation. What are you kind of looking for? How can people get in touch to join as part of this conversation and as part of this next edition of the Open Door magazine?
Well, we're in the process of setting up the Open Door. It's going to be Open Door BMJ,
Okay.
Black Men's Journal.
Yeah.
It's going to, you know, we're in the process of setting up that Instagram. But if people want to get in touch, they should just put, you know, type Open Door Men's Magazine on Instagram, and the actual Open Door will be there, and then the team there will be able to take that forward. We're using that one at the moment, because as you know, we've created the group chat, and we're just kind of recalibrating to talk about what the publication will look like and the different topics that we want to talk about. So, you know, it's, you know, but I'm very, very excited about this because I've wanted to do this for so long. And the fact that when I started it a few weeks ago, it went pear-shaped, I just thought, this can't be right. Like, you know, this is something that it needs to be done. So why am I having hurdles on the platform that I created? You know, so I was so upset, so angry, and I shut down the group and I said, I'm not doing this. We're not mature enough because we're attacking each other. And, you know, but then, you know, God works in mysterious ways because a few weeks later, it's back. And, you know,
of course.
I'm excited. You know, and just to give you a little bit of an idea, in that publication, there will be men who, you know, will be talking about their experience, you know, just their manhood. You know, some will be talking about their sexuality. Some will be talking about, you know, adoption into white families. You know, just how they see themselves in the world. You know, I want these alternative narratives that we don't read about. That's it. I want people to share the things that, as black people, black men, we don't necessarily know about. My other thing is that as black people, we are multidimensional, and I will never stop saying this. I'm not just one thing. I'm not just what you see.
I think as human beings, we're multidimensional.
But I think we're guilty in our community of just looking at the term black as just like a single thing. You're black. If you're black, then you're black and you're nothing else. But as black men, we're multidimensional. We come from, we have all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of backstories, all sorts of, you know, and it's about time that every black man is represented and listened to. Absolutely. You know, so this is what this is about.
Yeah. Paper Pages is saying it sounds amazing. She's loving what she's hearing.
It will be amazing. I'm so excited.
And I'm really glad to be a part of it. I mean, I know I'm part of the WhatsApp group as well. And I have to echo and emphasize that we don't have these spaces. And I think if we do, unfortunately, it becomes very much diluted with bravado and keeping face and whatever. When we do, very quickly, ego gets into the room. And then it becomes whose penis is longer than who, and who's got whatever. I mean, like it's the truth. That's what tends to happen.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's an excellent initiative. I'm very excited about it. I'm glad to be a part of it. You know, I feel that I love your intentionality as part of the platform as well. You've been very careful to, just by my experience of the WhatsApp group and what you're doing, you've been very intentional about, you know, setting certain values and a certain tone where this space can, you know, I don't ever believe in truly safe spaces. I don't think we could ever have them, but at least a space for people to be, you know, to be. And I love the way that you do that. And there's an intention around community and in building the journal.
Because the beauty about the current Open Door is that, you know, from when it started, it was just a magazine. But now it's spilled over into its own community. Like I said, we've got a WhatsApp group with, you know, however many men. We have scheduled conversations, weekly where we come together and talk. Yeah. The guys, you know, socialize. It's become a movement by itself. Of course. And it's fantastic. Actually, the next conversation is actually tomorrow evening. It's about boys. It's about boys will be boys. So we'll be talking about that with our, you know, diverse, you know, cast of people that we've got on there.
Sure.
And so that's what I want to create with Open Door BMJ. I want to create that same thing where everybody can let themselves go. And I think that there will be a little bit of a challenge there because, like you said, as Black men, especially, this is something that you know, and I try to explain that to other communities. You know, when I talk about men's work and things like that, they're like, "Oh, you know, we can come and we can all be like, you know, friends." And stuff. But like, in the Black community, it's a bit specific like that. Like, it's not as, you know, you don't just come in and you're like, "Oh, you know, flower power." It's not like that. Yeah. So, you know, that would be my little challenge, to be able to make people at ease enough to be able to interact with each other and things like that. But
it's a challenge worth navigating. It's a challenge that's worth it, I think. And as always, as I've anticipated, you know, in terms of our time, right? As I said, we start to flow and things start to move very quickly. But just to let people know, obviously, for those of you that, you know, have stayed with us, because I know we've had some people that may have dipped, come in. There's been a steady stream continuing. But for those that may have missed, Yann, if you can quickly just let us know best way to connect with you again, your website or whatever that people can get involved in getting in contact with you regarding the publishing house or your publications.
I keep it simple. Everything's on Instagram. Okay, so you can either, for the magazine, you can go at Open Door Men's Mag. You'll be on there. Just message us. One of us in the team is going to respond straight away. Or if you want the actual publishing house, at Sunbird Multicultural Press on Instagram as well, just message us. We'll be there. Just simple.
Brilliant. Thank you.
And the link, there's a link tree in each account that gives you web pages and whatever else.
Okay, to link and stuff. Okay, cool. And also, just to say, you know, I just a side note, I know I've been beaten over the head. People are going to me, my gosh, you know, this has been a good series that you've done, Kevin. You know, what's happening? You've done a really good series, 5 minutes to disrupt. I've really enjoyed it. I've had really positive feedback from people. Great. Everyone's like, when's the podcast? When's it come? When can we access it? Because we missed the live stream or we saw the stuff we wanted to hear from Yann or whoever it was. So just to let you know, what's happening is, because the series hasn't quite come to an end yet, at the end of the summer, we'll be finishing up and then we'll be collating all of the podcasts, and we're doing it as a series. So we're just going to edit them. We'll get them out. It will be a part of the 5 Minutes to Disrupt series. We'll let everybody know. It will be on Spotify. It will be on Apple. It will be on the other platforms, so people get a chance to tune in to their favorite episodes. So I just wanted to let people know that, because I've been WhatsApped and people are messaging me wanting to know. I just want to say, Yann, yeah, it's been great. It's been absolutely great. I don't feel like
we've talked enough.
It's crazy, but yeah, we're coming up to that time. It's amazing, and this is what always happens. As I said at the beginning, people go, "What? We're coming up to 50 minutes, an hour, are you crazy?
Yeah.
And then Instagram wants to boot me off the live stream.
True.
But I just want to encourage people, as we say, the Lounge Academics is exactly as it says on the tin. We're about creating thought leadership, teachable moments for people to, whether it's on our live stream, whether it's our podcast, whatever it is. We want to change the world through conversation. We love dialogue. We love dialogue, opens people's hearts. It creates understanding, and tonight has been no different. So I just want to thank you, sir, for adding to this great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I look forward to the editing of the podcast when we put this together and people get to see your bright blue in eyes and great features and styling and grooming, because we know you love to groom, sir. I'm going to put you on heat now, but I just want to say thank you all for just joining in the conversation and being a part of this, posing your questions and adding your bits. But once again, I strongly urge you to connect with Yann, particularly if you're interested in any of the wider work that he described earlier, but also in relation to the Black Men's Journal, which is his latest project. I can't endorse that enough. Please share it with your loved ones, with peers, particularly if you feel there are men, Black men that would benefit from this conversation and benefit from being a part of that platform and as part of that publication. I already seen that there's been hearts shown, and Yaz is saying, love seeing men talk. Yeah, we love to be watched being taught as well. You know, so brilliant. No, thank you, Yaz. And thank you. Yes, thank you. And Yaz is thanking you too, Yann. So thank you very much. Yann, it's been great, man. I look forward to working with you on the publication. Any last things before we wrap up that you wanted to say or get across at all before we finally wrap?
No, I mean, let's do another one.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, there's much more we need to talk about. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
No, thank you, Alex. Great conversation, Alex said, gents. Oh, Alex was our guest last time. Yes, Alex, thank you. Yeah, it's a great conversation, guys. So thank you very much. It's been great. Like I said, do follow Yann. Connect with our stuff. There's a backlog of videos on our YouTube channel, which is Lounge Academics. So if anyone wants to get the visual component of what we're doing, we will be starting back up our video podcast element soon. You know, social distancing permitted. You know what I'm saying? We will be doing that. But just wanted to say a massive thank you all for joining us. And Yann, thank you, sir. And all the best with all your endeavors, okay?
Thank you very much.
Speak soon. Thank you.
So much.
Take care.